Right here is the Collosus T8 aluminum version by Polygon. My friends over at Bikes Online sent this over to me because I expressed some interest in this when I saw it at the Bentonville Bike Fest. Now, originally, I was a little bit skeptical about the Collosus T series, thinking, wow, that's going to be way too much travel for my local area. Because typically a 160, 140 travel bike is usually going to be an actual all-mountain rig that's going to be an absolute pain to pedal. Well, whenever I saw this at the Bike Fest, I was really intrigued because this bike actually rode more like a Siskiyou model with a slightly longer travel, but has the forgiveness of a long travel bike when it comes to rough sections. Now let's start off with the price. This bike comes in at $3,499 full retail, but as of right now, Bikes Online has a special price going for $2,999. If you guys want to pick one up, of course, I've got some links below, and there may be a QR code on the screen that you can scan that will take you directly to it. Now, the Collosus T8 is the higher end version of the aluminum models when it comes to the Collosus T series. This bike's going to come in two different colors, an ice blue and this metallic brown. The brown I was super skeptical about whenever I saw it online. I was like, I don't know if I like a brown bike. But wow, this bike looks absolutely incredible with the logoing coloring that they did and the slight speckles that are in it that make it shine when it's out in the direct sunlight. It's actually a beautiful looking color. But with that being said, this is a size large. So we're going to go over all the specs and details when it comes to the actual geometry of this bike. And I'm going to use only the large sizes for that.
The frame stack height is 627 millimeters with a head tube angle of 64.5 degrees. The seat tube angle on this is 71 degrees, but the effective seat tube angle is actually 77 degrees. The effective top tube length is going to be 621 millimeters, and the bottom bracket height is going to be 338 millimeters. For chainstays, you're looking at a length of 435 millimeters, and the overall wheelbase is going to be 1,248 millimeters. The dropper post on this is going to be 170 millimeters.
So now that you know more about the geometry of this bike, let's talk about the components, because after all, that's going to be the difference between all of the T series is going to be the components that come on this bike. And what makes the T8 special is the fact that it comes with some pretty high-end components and still is under $3,000 as of right now. You're going to get a Fox 36 up front. This is absolutely my favorite fork by far on any of my bikes I've ever ridden. The Fox 36 is what I would call my go-to fork if I'm not sure what fork to put on a bike. This is going to have air adjustability, it's going to also have the grip damper, and it's going to have rebound adjustability. And it's one of the easiest forks to dial in my opinion, out of all the brands that are out there. And then back here on the back, you have the Fox Float. This is a tried and true rear shock. It's got the lockout built into it so you can lock it out if you really want to. It also has rebound adjustment. You can add air to it just like you can to the front fork to get it dialed into your exact rider weight. One thing that's really unique on this Polygon is that it does have a flip chip up here. This is something that I don't have a lot of experience with because most of the bikes that I ride are going to be XC style or just light trail bikes. They're not going to be these all mountain enduro style rigs. And that's where you start to see a lot of the flip chips come in. And I'm going to play around with the flip chip to see what I think. Out of the box, this came with it flipped on the low side. I'm going to flip it over to the high side after a little bit of riding and see if I can really notice a difference. To me, I've always kind of wondered, like, how much of a difference can a flip chip actually make? Now, Polygon went with a really unique setup on this. They went with a 6-bar linkage. This is the IFS setup. And as you can see, it looks extremely complex down here. There are a ton of different pivot points, a ton of different bearings in there. But they say that this will actually make this ride really smooth and super responsive. You shouldn't have any type of effect whenever you're braking and your suspension is working. So I'm going to have to play around with it and actually see. Just riding it around on my backyard trail, I did find that it was pretty smooth. However, I'm still in the phase where I'm trying to dial in the suspension. So I'm going to have to ride this quite a bit more to actually give you a real honest opinion on what I think of this IFS 6-bar linkage. I do think it is very complex and cool looking. I'm just hoping that it rides just like they claim it does. Now, if you've been riding the 6-bar linkage for a while, let us know in the comments below what you think of this. It looks wild, but is it wild? Let me know. Now let's take a look at the cockpit. This comes with some Polygon proprietary stuff on it, like these bars. These bars are 780 millimeters wide and they're made by Polygon. And then you do have a Polygon stem that is 35 millimeters. I personally will probably wind up putting riser bars on this bike just because it seems like whenever I've ridden other Polygon bikes like the Siskiyou, I've really enjoyed like 30 millimeter or 50 millimeter rise bars. They just make it feel like the stack height's a little bit higher, which is more my preference. But you should definitely give these a try whenever you get them because they might fit you absolutely perfectly. Now, when it comes to grips on here, they have their standard grips. These are really nice because they're lock-on, single-sided. They're not going to move on you whenever you're going down the trail. It does have a dropper post lever over here and the SRAM shifter over here. Let's talk about this dropper post lever because if there's any downfall on this actual bike, it's definitely this dropper post lever. I don't know why Polygon insists on putting this cheap dropper post lever on their bikes, but they do. I really wish that they would switch over to a bearing driven dropper post lever because it's just going to make it feel a lot better. I found with this one, if you don't have it dialed in absolutely perfectly, then even the best dropper post can feel slow and sluggish. So my first thing I'm going to do is probably swap out this lever for something that has a bearing in it. And this particular post is 170 millimeters on a size large. Whenever you get down into the smaller frames, it does change, I believe, down to 150. But in the size large, you are going to get a 170. Now, when it comes to the seat, it comes equipped with a physique seat, which I've ridden physique seats on several other brands and really enjoyed them. So now let's talk about the one thing that I was a little bit concerned with whenever I first saw the specs on this bike, and that is these Magura brakes. These are the MT5s, and I was really worried. I was worried that they were going to have plastic levers because Magura is known for putting plastic levers on their bikes, but I really like the way Maguras look, and I like the way they feel as long as it's not a plastic lever. Well, I was really happy to see that the MT5s come with a nice aluminum lever. The way these levers are designed, they're made for a single finger pull, which I really appreciate because I would rather have more hands on my grips than I would on my brakes. And they seem to be pretty powerful so far on the rides that I've been on with this. You're getting a 4-piston setup, both front and back, and you're also getting a 203 mil rotor in the front and a 180 mil rotor in the back. Now, something I noticed on here is that they have 1.8 millimeter thick rotors. Those a little bit thicker rotors should help the system like bite down a little bit better and possibly maybe make it cool down a little bit better. So far, I'm pretty impressed with these. I haven't ever used the MT5s, but I'm really liking them. Now, the drivetrain is something that is really impressive. This is a SRAM 70 setup, and it uses the transmission technology. So you've got your trigger shifter up top here, and then you have the SRAM 70 rear derailleur that is T-type. So this particular frame is actually set up to be UDH compatible, and it can run the T-type derailleurs from SRAM. It is a mechanical setup, which I really like because mechanical setups are just easy to adjust. I like the electronic stuff too, but having the mechanical, it just makes it really, really easy. Now looking down here, you do get a nice cassette. This cassette is going to have a 10 tooth all the way down up to a 52 tooth. And again, it's going to be a SRAM cassette. Up front, you get a 34 tooth chain ring along with a SRAM 165 millimeter crank arm. And this is all going to be sitting in a dub bottom bracket. Now, something really cool that the Polygons have done in their aluminum frame is they've added this thing called a poly pocket. And basically it's internal frame storage. This is super nice because you can put granola bars, beef jerky sticks in here, or you can put your tools in here and you don't have to have an extra bag to be able to actually store all this stuff. You can just put it all in here and go out on your ride. Now let's talk about the tires on this. The tires that come stock on this, these are gonna be Maxxis tires, and these are gonna be the dissectors. It comes with 2.4 inch wide tires, but you can actually equip this with 2.6 inch wide tires. These tires work really well. I'm not a huge fan of Maxxis tires, but these seem to do really well on kind of muddy style trails. My backyard trail has been pretty muddy, and overall, I was really impressed with the grip and the lack of rolling resistance. One thing I've noticed about sometimes whenever they equip bikes with Maxxis tires is that they seem to have a high rolling resistance, because a lot of brands like to equip bikes with the downhill casing on them, but these dissectors seem to roll really well. So I'm excited to try these out for quite a while and see how I like them over the long run. What's really nice to see is that they actually have the EXO Plus protection on these, so these should be pretty strong. You shouldn't get sidewall tears in these relatively easy. It's nice to see that they actually equipped it with what I think is going to be a pretty good tire overall. Now, when it comes to the wheels on this bike, they are 29 inches, both front and back, and they are going to be tubeless ready. So if you want to run tubeless, which I highly recommend, you can set these up relatively easy. So one thing that I really appreciate that Polygon did is they added some rubber protection right here on the down tube, and then they also added it right here on the chainstay. This is just going to keep your bike looking a little bit nicer in areas that are pretty common to wear. So overall, this bike looks pretty promising. I've taken it out on my backyard trail, had a ton of fun with it, and I plan on taking this out on all my local trails over the next few months. So if you guys want to see another video on this and my final thoughts on the Polygon Collosus T8, you're definitely going to want to stick around and subscribe, because I'm going to be taking this out, putting it through its paces, and actually seeing what this can do. Now, if you guys are excited about this and you want to pick one up, or maybe look at more details on this over at Bikes Online, I've got a link right down here, and I may have a QR code up on the screen. But if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments down below, and I'll try to get back to them and answer them as best as I possibly can. If you guys are excited about this, click the subscribe button, and also click that like button if you enjoyed this kind of overview and first initial thoughts of the Collosus T8 aluminum version. But as always, guys, you know what to do. Get out there and ride your bike.